Thank you for your time.
You bet. Good to be here.
If, as governor, what would you do to protect Texas's border?
Texas has got to secure its border. You know, I think we've all been waiting for a long time for Washington, D.C. to step up and do its job. I talk a lot about the U.S. Constitution and what's proper, and certainly the protection of the nation's borders is the constitutional duty of the federal government. But we have seen them disregard and ignore that responsibility, not only ignore the responsibility, but in their actions and in their policies invite an invasion. Immigration is a very important component of our nation's health. It is the people of the nation that make it wealthy. So we all ought to be interested in promoting a legal immigration and assimilation process. But to invite an invasion will destroy the country. Texas has got to get serious about securing our border and ensuring that all traffic across the border is through the legal ports of entry. So we've got to work with local law enforcement, county sheriffs. There are 14 counties along the Texas border, 6 additional counties in the Texas Border Coalition who have land mass within 25 miles of the border. Texas needs to be working to supplement and assist that local law enforcement in ensuring that all traffic across the border goes through the legal ports of entry.
What is your opinion on Governor Perry's comment that the federal government is shipping in immigrants from California and dropping them at Presidio, and there's nothing you can do about it?
Well, I think that clearly Texas needs to take a hard stand. I've read the letter that the governor sent to Janet Napolitano. It was a wringing hands letter. It was not a hard stand letter. We need to take a hard stand with the federal government, not just by sending a letter to a department head, but also by communication with and aggressive communication with the Texas congressional delegation. We need to be stepping up and protecting that border at Presidio. We should be working with the Texas Border Sheriff's Coalition, working with Danny Dominguez, who's the sheriff in Presidio County, and helping him in whatever fashion he believes he needs assistance to ensure that those deportees don't walk right back across the border into Texas. That shows some muscle behind our words. We haven't done that. We've talked one thing, but our bark has been a whole lot louder than our bite. When Texas begins to back up our word, I frequently say walk our talk, we'll see people understand that we mean what we say and we are serious about protecting the sovereignty of the state of Texas.
Yes, ma'am. If crisis presents itself in Texas, that the Department of Homeland Security would feel the need to come in and somehow run things, how would you approach them if they, for example, wanted to come in and instigate martial law?
I think that we've got to understand, we've all been desensitized as a nation more and more in recent years to the use of U.S. military on our domestic soil. That is a violation of posse comitatus. It is something that threatens freedom and inures us to a military state. It is the governor's job to stand up. It's part of what Sheriff Richard Mack and I are doing today in trying to educate citizens, to educate local law enforcement, to educate county sheriffs on their constitutional role, duty, and authority. So often we're told we can't. I'm just stubborn enough to say why not, and who says the state of Texas needs to protect the state of Texas. And we generally don't need the federal government stepping in to do that. We can take care of Texas, and we ought to be taking care of Texas.
Wonderful.
As far as protecting our borders, do you see Oath Keepers as a vital part to help out with that?
I think that there are lots of opportunities. I have been visiting with various county sheriffs. I'd like to complete that assessment. I really, in management, I've been in for-profit healthcare for well over 20 years, corporate healthcare, and I think the best managers understand that it's the guys on the front lines that best know how to solve that problem. It is premature for me as a registered healthcare professional who's been paying attention to grassroots politics to start telling a bunch of local county sheriffs how to deal with problems that they've been living with for years. The appropriate thing for me to do is to complete that, but I absolutely complete that assessment, but I absolutely believe that there are opportunities for us to use voluntary forces, whether those are posses, whether they are state and National Guard troops, whether they are local militias, whether they are U.S. Border Watch, Texas Border Volunteers, Minutemen, Oath Keepers. There are any number of ways creatively citizens are interested in ensuring the sovereignty of the state. We need to work collaboratively. We need to get outside the box. We need to go back to the Constitution and to the ideas that the founders had about how best to protect our communities. And together, we'll find the best solutions.
Wonderful. And the only other thing is, could you summarize your campaign and why you're running?
Oh, you bet. First, understanding that private property ownership and gun ownership are the essential elements of freedom. That is a freedom issue. It is not primarily a fiscal issue. It is primarily a freedom issue. We must own our property. We must have gun ownership rights in Texas. We've got to protect both of those. That means we need to eliminate private property tax. We need to eliminate property tax in Texas. We need to eliminate property tax in Texas. We need to restore state sovereignty with the aggressive use of nullification and interposition as the founders intended. And then we need to secure our border. So those are four things that we're working really hard on. I don't see income tax as even on the table in any form or fashion in Texas. We'd understand that typically there are three avenues, if you will, that government uses to raise the revenue that it needs to provide the services that it ought to be providing. Income taxes, property taxes, and sales taxes or consumption taxes. Income and property, the most onerous taxes, the most abused taxes, the most regressive taxes, the most burdensome on the economy. Those ought not be taxes in Texas. Sales tax is the best way to raise the revenue that we need for essential government service, and I would advocate a broader-based sales tax in Texas for serving government.
Wonderful. And when you're governor, can I have another interview?
You bet.